Hi, I'm Jake from TradeLab.ai. Today we're going to be discussing how the DaviddTech strategies were built and give you some insights on how you can edit them and even create your own strategies using the strategy builder. First thing we're going to do is click on Edit for the DaviddTech long strategy, and that'll open the strategy builder. In the past, we've stayed towards the top of the builder in this trade settings area, changing different things like amount and leverage. But today we're going to scroll down to the bottom and we can see this rule area where we have blue rules on the left and orange rules on the right. These are our entry and exit rules, and these describe how the bot works, and changing these, you can create just about any type of trading strategy that you can think of. Using the DaviddTech strategies, these are actually fairly simple because David does a lot of work on his side and then sends fairly simple alerts. So this is actually a really good example to show, how simple rules work and how they can be used and combined to do interesting things. So let's take a look at this entry rule on the left side. Remember, this is our long DaviddTech long template. So we can see that it has enter long as the name. And a rule block has two different sections. It has conditions and actions. So it's like a big if and then statement. So if this stuff is true, then do this. That's all we're talking about. So right here, we have condition statements that say if our type is the long entry message, and if our symbol matches our symbol for the trade settings up here. So this symbol right here. So this entry rule is listening for an alert that has the long entry message. And this is a message that we set in our variables. I've discussed this in a other video. This is our long entry message. So we can change that depending on what strategy we're using or anything like that. But what we're looking for is for a alert to say DaviddTech long enter. So if an alert sends that says DaviddTech long enter, and if it has the symbol that is matching ETH, then it'll run these actions. And these actions are going to set up a couple different things in order to do some more advanced stuff when we run our exit rules. So for example, the first action that we have here is just running a sound. We're going to play a sound, and actually I have this set to none, but this is a good example. You could come in here and set this to ding or whatever, and it would create a notification every time that this rule ran. The cool thing about that is you can have different rules that might not even place orders, and you can have them play sounds, and that'll sort of, tell you what's going on without even looking at it. So that's the first action. The second action is we set our side. And actually, this isn't extremely needed, but this is a good example of how we can change our side back and forth. So this is actually left over from the combo strat. And in the combo strat, we actually have an entry rule for long and an entry rule for short. And depending on if we hear a long or short message, we can then change our strategy side back and forth. So right now this says buy, but we could easily change this to a short without even changing it here, but by the rules and the alerts. So that's the whole idea behind TradeLab, is that we can send alerts and then we can change either trade settings, or we can also store stuff in our variables and then compare them later on and make better decisions. So we set our strategy side. We also start setting 3 different variables. These are our take profit variables, our different 3 take profit lines. These are actually set by David. So in the DaviddTech strategies, you set up all of your take profit settings, And then what he does is he sends the take profit and stop loss lines to us. And what we do is inside of the message, let's take a look at the message actually. So if we look at our alert instructions and look at our long entry rule, we can see that we're taking, we have three different messages, or three different fields inside of our message. We have a take one, a take two, and a take three. And we have these weird little hashtags with long TP, long TP1, long TP2. These are David's variables. So they're kind of special to David, right? And what that's going to allow him to do is to put the actual number into here when he sends it. So that means if we go back here, scroll down, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to set our variable for take profit one. We have a variable. Let's take a look there. So I've set up a variable, take profit one. Okay, it's a number. Okay, so I can scroll down here and see take profit one is being set to take one. And that take one is coming from that message I just showed you. So this is David sending his information into the take one field for my alert. And what I'm doing is I'm setting my variable to that number that he's sending. And so every time that he sends us a entry long alert, we're going to take the three numbers that he's sending us and store them in our variables. Okay, so that's a great example of remembering information and saving it for later. We do the same thing for the stop as well. So he sends us a stop number and we save it in the stop variable. Okay. Then we have a place order action. So this is the action that is actually going to place an order and make everything, kick off. So that'll create the trade. And we also do three other changes to variables. So we have three other variables here that are called take profit hit. And these are true and false flags. So I can check this true and false. And what this is doing is allowing us to check to see if we've hit a line or not. You'll see over here in our exit rules that we have a long take profit one rule and a take profit two and a take profit three. So we have three different rules listening for our price to go over our line. And you can actually see that here. So if you look at this take profit two rule, you can see that we want our trade, its price move, so that the movement of the price. So since we entered, what percentage has it moved? That's what this is. So trade price move. Okay, so if that is greater than or equal to our take profit two variable. And where did that variable come from? It came from right over here when David sent that information to us and we saved it. So we saved it and now we're checking it again and we're seeing if the price movement percentage of our trade is greater than our take profit. Now, if it is greater than, that's great. And we need to go ahead and run the actions that will allow us to decrease our position. You can see here I have decreased position. And that's going to take money out of our position and put it back in our pocket. But the reason that we need these take profit hit variables is because once we cross this and we say, yes, it's greater than, then we're going to take money out, but we don't want to do this again. You see, like if this rule runs again and it says, oh yeah, it is still greater than the line, then it'll try to take more money out. We don't want that. We only want it to happen once. And so one easy way to do that, there's many ways, but one easy way to do that is to create these true-false variables. So you can see I went into variables here. These are the numbers that we're storing from David, right? And these are the true-false flags that I made to make sure that we don't do it multiple times. right? So all I did is I just hit add strategy variable, and I selected a true false, and I named it, right? So now we're going to go to edit and look back at where we were. So that's the reason why we have the take profit hit. So now you can see that once this is greater than, we're going to go ahead and set take profit hit to true. Take profit to hit to true. Now that this is set to true, if this rule runs again, look at the first condition statement. The first thing it does is it checks to see if take profit to hit is equal to false. If it's not equal to false, this will not run, and we will not do this again. So that's the whole reason why we have these right here, right? And so going back to our entry rule, we did all of this setup and we placed our trade and all that. But at the very bottom, you can see that we're setting our variables, the take profit hit, to false. And we're doing that because we need to reset them, right? So like if we were in a trade and we hit the take profit and it did go to true, then that's great, but when that trade ends, before we start another trade, we want to make sure that our take profits hits are reset, right? So we go ahead and set them all to false, and then these rules can run and they can set them to true, and that's how that works. So real quick about the actions, we can see that that's setting to true. Let's talk about this decrease percentage. As an action, you can increase or decrease percentage. When you decrease, not percentage, I'm sorry, decrease position, and that means taking money out of the position or rebuying and putting money into the position, right? So decrease position here would take money out, and just like our amount type up at the top when we're setting up how we want to trade, we can change this from percentage to USD to coin, and we can define how we want to take out this amount. You'll see here that I'm decreasing my position by 1%, and the amount that I'm doing that by is by my take amount. So my take amount, I have take amount and take amount 2 and take amount 3. So take amount 2 is selected because this is the take profit 2 line. So this is the variable that we have seen in other videos, right? And you can see that I'm decreasing it by this amount. Now, I'm doing that because I have this reference field checked. If I uncheck this, I could just type in, decrease it by 40%, decrease it by 50%. But then that means that anytime I wanted to change this, I would have to scroll through the rules, find this action, and go in and change this number. Instead of doing that, it's many times simpler to create a variable, so that way it shows up almost like a settings screen, and you can see all the different settings that you need to change, right? So what this reference field checkbox allows us to do is change this from just a normal number that we type in and it's a static value that's always 21, in this case. Instead of that, we would check this reference field box, and now we can reference all sorts of different things. So not only can we reference our variables, which is what we were doing a second ago with our take amount 2, but we can also reference an alert field. So if David is sending us a certain field, eventually I would like to have the take amounts set up as variables that he sends us, so that instead of having to match it in TradeLab, he could just send whatever you set up in the settings panel and we could use it. So here, if he was doing that, we could, instead of using a variable, we could say, hey, decrease it directly by that field that he sends, right? So that's what we can do there. I'm going to set this back to take amount 2. All right. And so that's how these take profit rules work. They're all really the same. We have one for each of the 3 lines. And all it's doing is checking to make sure we didn't hit the line already. And then also checking to make sure that we are above the line. And then we're going to go ahead and place the order. So we also have an exit rule right here. And this is for when David sends his exit message. So if David ever sends an exit message, we listen for that exit message. We make sure that it's for the right symbol. And then we go ahead and close the order. You'll notice that when we listen for David's messages from his alerts, that I'm also checking the symbol, if symbol is equal to symbol. And this is to make sure that we don't hear any other symbol messages that we don't want. Now, of course, we already have symbols selected up here, so why wouldn't we just automatically filter? Well, because in some cases, say I'm trading Ethereum, I might want to actually listen to a Bitcoin alert. So I could listen to an alert from BTC and react to it while I'm in my Ethereum strategy. So that's why you do have to say symbol equals symbol and make sure that you are comparing those. You'll see here that this is a lowercase s. That is the symbol field that is coming from the alert. And then the uppercase S is the symbol that you see up here in the trade settings. I am going to make that more clear. I know that that's a little muddy, but just know that lowercase symbol is equal to uppercase symbol. So that's what that's doing. You'll see that we're doing that whenever David sends us a message, right? And then if you notice in our take profit rules, he's not sending us a message here, and we're not checking for symbol. So how is this running? These rules, they run, whenever we hear an alert. So how does this know to run, and how does it know to check our take profit lines? Well, what happens is TradeLab actually has what we call heartbeat alerts. And these alerts send a couple times a minute, and they make all of your rules run to make sure that they're always updating. Okay, so even if you don't hear an alert from David, we're still running your alerts, and we're still updating all of your take profit and all of your variables and all of that sort of stuff. So you'll notice here that if I'm looking for a field in custom alerts, if my field type is custom alerts and I'm listening for a field from David, information from him, these will only run when David sends it, right? So if I have a condition statement that has custom alerts, this rule is only going to run its actions when we actually hear an alert from David, right? These won't run on the heartbeat, okay? Because we have custom alerts, because we're searching for a type or searching for a field from custom alerts, okay? Now, over here on the take profit, we don't have any condition statement that has a custom alert field type. You notice that? We're only checking our strategy variables, and we also check our trade. Okay, and the trade is available all the time, even on heartbeats. Okay, so we can check our strategy variables and our trade. We can also check the strategy itself. We can check global variables, and we can even check goals. The only thing that we can't check while we're in a heartbeat is custom alerts. So that means that this particular rule is going to run all the time, and it's going to check to see if it's true, and if it is, then it'll go ahead and run the actions, right? So that's how that works. We'll also notice that we have a stop loss rule all the way down here at the bottom, and it's really simple. We're just checking to see if the price movement of the trade is less than our stop, because this is a long, right? So if it's less than our stop, then we close the order. And so that's how that's all set up. You'll notice that I was looking at a long. If we go into a short real quick, you'll notice that all of those less than and greater than, everything flips around, right? So This time for our short take profit, instead of looking to make sure that our price has moved up, we're actually looking to make sure our price has moved down, and say, has our price movement percentage less than our line, our take profit line. So the take profit lines will be below where you entered, right? And now we want them to go below those lines. And so we have less than, right? And so our stop rule is greater than, right? So everything's opposite for long and short. And you can see how we set that up. So that's examples of how a long and a short are set up. We can also quickly take a look at an example of a combo strategy. So if I copy the combo strategy and take a look at it, you'll see that really it's just the same thing that we've been looking at, except it's got everything inside of it. So if we go look at edit, the combo strategy, and we scroll down to the rules, I'm going to skip the setup. If we scroll down to the rules, we'll see that we have two entry rules now. We have an enter long and an enter short. And we're listening for a long entry message and a short entry message. And so just as I said earlier, a strategy can only be on one side at a time. So if you look at this strategy right now in our strategy list, it'll say that it's a long, right? But in fact, because it's a combo template and because we have the ability to change stuff on the fly, it doesn't always have to be a long. So if we hear a short entry message and it's the right symbol, then we're going to start firing a short trade. And to do that, we're going to set our strategy side to sell or short instead of buy. And you can see over here, if we saw a long entry message, we would be setting it to buy instead of short, okay? And so that actually on the fly changes how this strategy is trading, okay? So then we can go down here and place our order, and that makes the long or it makes the short. And at that point, when we're in a long or a short, we're then running our exit rules. And in our exit rules, you'll see that we also have long and short, and we have long and short over here. So we have an exit long and short rule and a take profit for each of the three take profit lines, and we have a long and a short next to each other. So here, it's really the same thing that we already looked at, right? We're checking our price movement percentage, and if it's greater than, then we go ahead and decrease our position, and we set our take profit, hit, everything that we talked about. The main difference here is that we're also checking to make sure that the strategy side is either long or short. That tells us, which side we're on, so that we can run the right rule. And so that's what we're using there. So we're actually using, you can see here on the entry side, in the actions, we're setting the strategy side and we're changing the strategy side here. And on the exit rule, we're using the conditions to look at the strategy side and see, hey, are you long or are you short, right? So you can do it both sides there. So that's about it. That's how these work. We can hop over into the variables, and I'll show you that inside of here we have the long and the short messages combined. We also have this experimental swing trading option, and I'll explain that here. So this is something that we're working on. I'm working on it. At the very, 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 very bottom, we have these loop rules. And what this allows you to do is to hopefully swing trade within one combo. Now, if you watch the other videos, I've told you all that you should copy a long strategy and a short strategy and use them separately if you want to swing trade. That's the easiest way to do it. However, it is possible to do swing trading with a combo strategy. The issue becomes if I'm in a long trade and I'm running my exit rules and I get two alerts really quickly, I get a long exit, but I also get a short entry. And sometimes the short entry might even come in before the long exit, just cause, by a second, But if that happens, or if they happen at the same time, then we don't really have time to place the trade, wait for it to get out, and then still have our alert to get into the long, or to get into the short, to swing, to make that swing trade. So what we're trying to do here is I have a loop rule, that's basically creating a loop back to the entry rules. And the way it's doing this is it's saying, if we get an entry message inside of our exit rules, if we get an entry message and I have this enable swing trading, then I can run a rule timer. So there's a special action called rule timer. And what this does is it runs a rule directly. So I can pick any rule in my strategy and I can make this rule trigger another rule. And I can add a timer to it. So this is hours, minutes, and seconds. And so I've delayed it for 1 second, hoping that I can get the trade that's currently going. In this case, it would be a short because we're trying to enter a long. So if we're entering a long while we're already in a short and we're trying to close the short, go ahead and run the enter long rule, which is this one way up here. Run this, and that will trigger it to enter a long trade. And hopefully we have had enough time to exit our short trade. So that's the type of thing that we're working on. And you can see, the logic that I used to sort of create that. There's so many possibilities, so many things that you can add to this. The more data that you want to go out and get, if you want to get information from Elon's Twitter and or a news scraper or anything like that, and feed information into here, you can add that information to what David's stuff is doing, and you can say, hey, if I heard some bad news and from Elon Twitter bot or something, and David is telling me to trade, I can actually say, hey, no, David, I'm not going to trade right now because I heard this other information, right? So that's what this is all about. If you've gotten through all 3 videos and you've now seen how this builder works, I hope it's starting to click. It will take a little bit to, experiment and try different things, but there's a lot of different things that can be done. And I can't wait to see other people start using it and trying different things. So thank you for watching, and subscribe for more updates. Have a good one.